What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS. Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Kevin Moore Show. Now on today's show, I'm about to be joined by my guest, Dan Baldwin. Now Dan is a professional writer, often a ghostwriter for other professionals. He has written and co-written or ghosted more than 50 books and has won numerous local, regional and national awards. Now he's a certified clinical hypnotherapist, plays the Native American flute, and is an expert pendulum dowser, having used the pendulum to assist in finding missing persons for over 15 years. Now, he joins me today to discuss his latest book, The Paranormal Pendulum. Dan Baldwin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for calling. I'm delighted to meet you.
I'm delighted to get you on. You're in Arizona.
Yeah, Mesa, Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah. How long have you lived in Arizona for?
We've been here since 1993.
Wow, okay. And you're a gentleman that's done some interesting work. I mean, well, if we just look at the amount of books that you've sort of ghostwritten as well, and that you've sort of published yourself, how many books in total have you sort of been a part of?
I haven't counted them recently. I've got more than 60 books out. 50 have somebody else's name on the cover. I'm the ghostwriter, and I've got probably 10 or 15 out under my own name.
That's incredible. How did you get involved in ghostwriting books?
I just luck of the draw. I did some advertising for one of my clients, and they were going to write up one of those For Dummies books, and they just asked me if I would like to write it, and I said, of course. And after I wrote that, they started making recommendations, and one guy led to another guy, and it's, 50, 60 books later. I'm
incredible.
very lucky.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredible. And it's really helped you with some of the work that you're doing now, because, I mean, you've done a number of books in the paranormal right now as well. What got you interested in the paranormal?
It's a strange story. I'm not a clairaudient. I mean, I don't hear voices. One night about 20 years ago, I was doing my late evening walk just to kind of, dump the junk from the day. And I heard clear as a bell a voice say, find missing children. Came out of the blue. I kind of blew it off for a while, but the thought was in my head and it was spinning around and around and around. And after 3 months, I basically said, the traditional, show me the door, I'll walk through it. And I figured out, I'm not a detective. I'm not an investigator. I'm not a trained investigator. So how can I find missing children? And it occurred to me, maybe this psychic thing will work. So I started hanging around psychics and bookstores. And eventually I saw someone doing a pendulum. I said, that's for me.
So let me get this right. Interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
You started your psychic kind of, you went more into your psychic gift at the age of around 50-ish, right?
right. I call myself a psychic on training wheels.
Right. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, because some people, they had this gift at a young age and they sort of, it comes in effect at some point in their life if they're not using it,
Right.
from a very early age onwards. And there, I think a lot of people walk around with this gift and it comes out at a later age, doesn't it?
I think everybody has it, and it's just a matter of can you accept a gift or not? And in my case, looking back, I can see it all the way back through my life. But at the time, as a child or a young man, I did not recognize it. And like I said, it took, I had to be age 50 before it to actually manifest.
Absolutely. And, when of course, I'm in the States right now. When I go to the Walmarts throughout the States,
Yeah,
it's you don't see this in the UK, but in the US, in a Walmart, where the checkout is, you'll see the missing kids sort of section on
right,
the wall,
right.
and that always stands out to me. That wall does because I look at it sometimes when my wife's doing the grocery shop, and I'm like, wow. All these people, all these fresh faces all the time of people going missing. It's crazy in the States, isn't it? How many people go missing?
You would be astounded at the number of people who disappear daily. It's an amazing number.
Oh, did you have much success rate with tracing some missing people?
Yeah, we had a lot of success. I never actually figured the ratio, but I would say more than 50%.
50%. And is that something you still do now?
I well, as you know, I got into this spirit communication about 5 years ago, so that my whole emphasis has been shifted that way. But yeah, I still do. I get calls on cases. I got one a couple of weeks ago from Canada, so I'm still working in that arena.
And how does that work for you? So you've got the pendulum, and that's sort of a tool to open up you as
Right.
well. Yeah, just explain that.
Yeah, as I really emphasize in, in several of the books I've written about pendulums, the pendulum is just a tool. I mean, it's a hammer, it's a saw. There's nothing mystical or magical about the pendulum itself. But the way it works is you hold the pendulum here. Let me show you if you can see this. You can hold the pendulum up. All right, and your conscious mind begins focusing on the pendulum itself, and that frees up your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind gets in contact with your higher power. You can define that higher power according to whatever religion you believe in or don't believe in, but there is a higher power. And you get the answers from the higher power that they're basically downloaded to your subconscious, and your subconscious directs the movement of your fingers so that the pendulum will swing one way or the other. So, for example, if it swings to the right, that would be a yes. If it swings to the left, that would be a no answer. And you just basically ask questions.
So, do you give readings to people at all?
Not really. That's not my calling. I try to help find missing persons, solve some crimes. Like I said, in the last 5 years, I've been trying to help people through this spirit communication. But in terms of winning the lottery or earning capital from it, that's not what I'm supposed to do with it.
No, not at all.
Not that I knock it. I'm going to have friends who do that for a living, and that's fine. It's just not my calling.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, incredible, incredible. And what has it taught you about the nature of reality then? Like this whole idea of life after death. I mean, what is it? Has it put you at ease with anything? Does it make you think deeper? Like what is beyond this gift I've got? What does this truly mean?
Yeah, what I'm trying to do right now is, we're all, nobody gets out alive. We're all going to pass over. So I'm trying to find out what it's like when you pass over. I want to be ready for it when it happens. I want to know what the experience is as you pass over, what happens when you get over there, things like that. And one of the side benefits of this is I've been able to help a lot of people who are confused or heartbroken about losing a loved one. I can say, with absolute authority, your loved one is alive. There is life after death. You can relax.
Yes, what it is, that's the age-old question, right? But there is something, there is some we're energy, aren't we, in a sense?
Yeah, and we keep on going. I mean, I have absolute proof of that. So it's not something I dying does well. Death doesn't bother me. Dying maybe, but death itself, no, because we
Absolutely.
go on.
Yes, yes, we go on. Absolutely. And when you've done some of these cases, have you actually connected with a person who has gone missing, who has passed on, and you're able to sort of give some messages over to the loved one that they wanted to sort of give to that person?
Yeah, we have. We've actually done that. In one of the more interesting cases, and this has happened several times, we've contacted the spirit of someone we're looking for. You know, when I get the call, it's a cold case. So the chances are I'm looking for someone who's already passed on. So we were talking and we made contact with the spirit, and the spirit did not want to be found. The spirit had been, yeah, the spirit had been in a plane crash. And basically she said, I don't want my mother to see me like this. So the spirit was actually, in a sense, working against us in trying to find the human remains.
Did you find
So
the
yeah, there's definite interaction there.
Did you find the remains?
A year later, we did, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
But at that time, the bodies had decomposed, and it was not as gruesome a sight as it would have been had we found them that day.
Right. Okay. Okay. Um, that's interesting, isn't it? So with a murder, let's go straight to that. Have
Yeah,
you dealt with any murders?
I've dealt with some murders, yes.
Yeah. You know, from what you've just explained there, from the sort of spirit not wanting their deceased, sorry, their loved ones to see their you know, whatever it was that they didn't want them to see, from a murder. What is a murder victim, in a sense, trying to get over most times to their loved ones?
Okay, yeah, let me tell you a true story that really happened, that really dramatically answers your question. My friends and I from Southern Arizona were doing a session. We raised funds for a group called Wounded Warriors. And we were doing a weekend session where we would take people around to different haunted places around Tombstone, Arizona, famous haunted city. And we would, do spirit communication. The last evening was kind of a play date. In other words, we would take all the stuff that we had taught them the Friday and the Saturday and that Sunday afternoon, and we would go to a haunted place and they could practice everything that they had learned. And the three of us would, Dwight and Rhonda Hull were their names, we would sit aside and just kind of watch because we were exhausted. So we split up into three parts of the room and basically just sat down and tried to catch our breath. And one of the sessions was being run by a fellow by the name of Brian Cano. Y'all might recognize his name. He's pretty well known in the psychic circles. He was our guest host. And he said, hey, this lady's working the pendulum here has made some kind of contact. So they called Dwight over, and he was working. And Dwight has a background in military intelligence, so he knows how to ask questions. So he said, yeah, there's somebody here. And the lady working the pendulum, that was her first day. So she was an amateur. So Dwight calls me over. I'm start working the pendulum. And I'm going, yeah, there's definitely a troubled spirit here. So we called Rhonda over, and she starts talking to him. And we found out that we were talking to a murderer, a ghost who had died back in the 1880s. And he was basically trapped at that location. He was afraid to cross over. Another spirit came in, and this was the man. This was the murder victim. The murder victim crossed over to say, "You're forgiven. I forgive you. Nothing terrible is going to happen to you. Cross over. Come with me. I will take you over, and all is forgiven. There's nothing to be afraid of." And basically, we released that spirit, and he crossed over. And the message, the point is, the message was, all is forgiven, all is love. Don't worry about it. It was incredibly emotional.
It's a powerful message, isn't it? In circumstances like that, because it's very difficult for people to forgive. They may walk through their whole lifetime not forgiven, where they could have done.
Yeah, and this was a murder victim. Turned out he was the guy's brother. They were two Chinese men. He had killed his brother, and his brother came over. So basically, we had one spirit cross back over to help another spirit go into the light. And his message again, that's recurred several times. It's yeah, all is forgiven. Don't worry.
Such an important message, even on this level, isn't it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And obviously, this is about your latest book, The Paranormal Pendulum, and I guess it is a very powerful tool, and I don't, always consider just, what you can do with a pendulum, and you've been using it for years as well. So when using a pendulum, have you, you've got to sort of, tune into your intuition as well, and really try to
right.
feel what's being said.
Definitely, you've got to use your intuition. In the courses that I teach about it, I say, listen to your intuition first. Follow your gut instinct because that's closer to your heart.
Yeah, and how long have you been teaching on the pendulum?
Uh, Probably 10 or 15 years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Oh, wow.
It's just at local bookstores or people get a group together and they want to learn how to do it.
No, I think that's fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, one of the
absolutely.
reasons, if I may, one of the reasons I wrote the book was I kept running into people who thought who had a desire to speak with someone on the other side. Maybe a relative, or maybe they just wanted some build up some confidence that there is another side. But they thought, one, I've got to be a professional medium, or two, I've got to go out and buy a lot of very expensive electronic equipment. Three, I got to wait till midnight to go down to the local haunted house, which, I mean, all that works, but it's totally unnecessary. I wanted to write a book saying using pendulum dowsing, anybody, if they do it right, can make contact with the spirit world. You don't have to, go to the local haunted house. You don't have to buy a lot of expensive equipment, and you can learn how to do it quickly and easily.
Yes, that's the yeah. Do you think the pendulum chooses you in a sense when you go to choose a pendulum?
No, no more than a hammer chooses you when you go down to the hardware store. Now, when people ask me, they say, what method do you use to select a pendulum? And I go, looking very wisely, I picked a pretty one.
Yeah, yeah,
no,
absolutely. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the pendulum you've got there. I mean, that's obviously one with a crystal there as well that's attached to it. Yeah.
yeah. The material doesn't matter. I mean, it can be wood. I have a wood, metal, crystal. I like this shape here because I do a lot of map dowsing, and you've got this sharp pointed tip there, which helps out. When
How should you hold the pendulum then? Is it just keeping it straight and just yep, just like that?
basically
Okay.
like that. Yeah, you can do it like that, or you can flip it over. Basically whatever is most comfortable for you to is the way you ought to hold it. This works for me.
And the actual language of the pendulum is just simple questions,
Yes or no?
yes or no.
Yeah.
Right.
In other words, I can't say, am I talking on the radio or the television right now? There's no way to get a yes or no question out of there. So you have to break it down. Am I talking on the radio? Am I talking on the television? Am I speaking to a male spirit? Am I speaking to a female spirit? That sort of thing. It's a bit slow, but it's very accurate.
Okay. And because some people may be like, yeah, but what if I misinterpret what it's saying? I'm going to get it wrong. Do you know what I mean? But
But you are going to get it wrong. I mean, that it's you get life wrong. Nobody's is correct 100% of the time. But it's like anything else. The more you do it, the more you practice, the better you get, and the more accurate you are.
okay. What if when you're doing the pendulum, it's sort of swinging both ways as well?
Well, actually, again, I'll hold this up. There are three basic movements. This one, that would be swinging to my right will be a yes for me. If I swing it to the left, that would be a no for me. If it goes back and forth, chances are either I need to ask the question another way, or the spirit does not want to answer that question, which does happen.
Okay. When you're using the pendulum for yourself, do you feel that you've got a guide or someone else that's there with you that's like a gatekeeper to what's coming through?
Uh, there may be spirits there, but they're not really gatekeepers. Sometimes a spirit will come in to help you out with a problem, but they're not really a gatekeeper. You're in direct contact with your higher self.
Oh, you think, yeah, you think it's the higher
Yeah,
self that's actually right. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one on one with your higher self.
Okay. Okay. What are some of the stumbling blocks when people first start using a pendulum, do you think, for this work?
The hardest thing is keeping your mind clear. In other words, like say you're looking for the little 5-year-old cute little girl, and you want the cute little 5-year-old girl to be alive. If you're asking, is the little girl alive, and you're thinking yes, you're going to get a yes answer, regardless of what the true answer is. So you've got to keep yourself totally clear.
How do you keep yourself clear before you do a session then?
Well, before I do an important session, I will meditate for about 15 or 20 minutes, get myself centered, and I just focus. And it's pretty simple. After a while, you get to where you can do it. You can keep yourself centered and focused so that you don't veer off.
Yeah, that must be difficult though. I mean, you want the person to be alive if it's a sort of recent case, and yet if information's coming through that they're not, and whatever's being communicated is what's being communicated. That must be hard to sort of. I mean, how do you go back to tell the parents, or whoever it is, the results you've got, and you've got to, because you're putting a lot of faith into that one thing, and what if that? Do you know what I mean? It's difficult, isn't it, to want it? You really got to believe what you're doing, haven't you?
Yeah, I know. I've done a lot of cases where I've done the readings, and then we've gone out and actually looked for the person. And like I said, it's not 100% accurate 100% of the time. Sometimes you're off, and sometimes when you're doing a search, you may have to look 2 or 3 days to cover a specific area. But one of the hardest things is coming back and looking at a family member and saying, "Didn't find him. Sorry."
Yeah, and why do you think some of those situations happen? Do you think you're just not supposed to know right now, or there's something's blocking it?
Sometimes, yeah. One of the questions I ask is, is this session that I'm conducting uh, in the best interest of the missing person or the missing person's family? Because sometimes it's not. I did a case. This was over, I believe, in Texas several years ago, and I was searching for, again, looking for the little missing girl, and I had narrowed down the search area to about, I don't know, 100-mile area in central Texas, and I was basically squeezing down that area, street by street, road by road, got it down to about a 50-mile radius area. And something really started bothering me. You talk about instinct or gut instinct or intuition. Something was really bothering me about doing this case. And I finally asked, should I continue looking for this little girl? And I got a definite no swing. So, I listened to my subconscious implicitly, and I dropped out of the case. I called in and said, I'm not working this case anymore. It turns out later that all the frenzy looking for the little girl was by some somewhat distant relatives who stood to inherit a bunch of insurance settlement money from the little girl. So in that case, she was safe. She was with good people, and it was in her interest not to be found. And I backed out of it.
Incredible, incredible. Have you ever sort of done any searches with international cases where you've just done it for your own sort of, for your own sort of private practice in a sense, or you're just looking for your own curiosity?
Not really, because when I was doing this, I was doing probably 2 to 4 cases a month. So that kept me pretty busy. And I've done cases in Canada, Mexico, England, France, Ireland. Did a couple in Japan.
Japan. One of the more sort of famous cases in the UK recently. It didn't happen in the UK. It happened in Spain, but the Madeleine McCann case.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. When there's
I did not work that.
No. There's a docu-series right now on Netflix, and of course, there's a lot going on right now with Madeleine McCann's. They think they found someone connected to her murder, but yeah, very difficult. I'm sure some families have a lot of people come to them, with psychic gifts, saying they think they've communicated and everything else. But you wouldn't do that. You wait for the case to come to you, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly. I don't intrude on somebody else's grief. Let me put it that way.
Yeah. Now, with the pendulum, obviously we're holding the pendulum, but is the body acting as an energetic connection to it as well? Do you think?
Um,
Or do you think? I mean, can the body act as a pendulum sometimes?
yeah, you can
Yeah.
act. Yeah, if you could, if you're desperate, if you're in the desert and you're lost and you don't have your pendulum, stand upright and say, which way should I go? And your body can, and if you lean forward, that's the way you need to go. So you can use your body as a pendulum, but
And it's trusting that, isn't it? Again, it's like, oh my
yeah,
God, am I going to go the? Yeah, I mean, it's yeah. Well, it's the whole thing is trust, isn't it? When you're dealing with these types of subjects, but the results speak a lot for how accurate some of this stuff can be as well. So, is there a sort of pendulum kit that you recommend? I mean, can they go to yourself for that, or?
I know. I mean, I would go to your nearest psychic bookstore. They normally carry pendulums, and in the United States, the price tag is usually $10 to $20, very inexpensive. You don't have to buy expensive, fancy pendulums unless you want to. My kit consists of I have a pendulum, I have a spare pendulum, I have a recorder, a voice recorder, and batteries, and a small flashlight.
So when you're dowsing on a map, for example, you're trying to
Mhm.
look for someone. How do you start that search on a map with a pendulum? Because obviously, I guess that, the US is a massive place, right? So, if you, yeah, how would you do that?
Yeah, we were trying to find somebody in about I don't know, 1 million acres of national forest, so it can get pretty vast. I call it shrinking the box. But you can take a map, take a United States map. Is this person in Colorado? Yes or no. Is this person in Arizona? Yes or no. You get a yes. Okay, so you've got your boxes the shape of Arizona, and you can pick a major highway, say Interstate 10. Is this person north or south of Interstate 10? You get to say north. All right, that cuts your box down. Is this person east of I-17? That you get a yes. That cuts your box down. Eventually, you can just go by road, north of this road, south of this road, east of this road, shrinking the box, shrinking the box. I get down to topo maps, or sometimes I use Google Earth, where you can actually get down. Is this person north of this bridge, or this road, or this rock formation, or whatever? And you can get down to actual, square feet just by, process of elimination.
That's incredible. I suppose you've done some cases where you must have got pretty close to where this could have been. But I guess as well, it's up to the detectives or whoever's working on the case to want to
Right.
take some of this information further, and that must be frustrating sometimes.
I can tell you one story that was extremely frustrating. It had ultimately a good outcome. We were looking. I was looking for a young lady who went missing from, I believe it was Illinois, and they thought she was coming down to Tucson, Arizona. That was their best guess. So I was using my pendulum. I said, well, if she's coming down here, she's got to go on Interstate 40 at some point. That's a big east-west interstate in the U.S. She's got to be on that at some point. So I started dowsing. Is it likely that she will be on Interstate 40 today? Got a yes. Is it likely that she is hitchhiking? Got a yes. Has she found someone to carry her? Got a yes. So I started taking I-40. Is it likely that she was traveling with the traveling salesman that hitched a ride with him? Is it likely he will be at such and such a city today? And I just moved down Interstate 40. I got to Albuquerque, New Mexico. Is it likely that he will stop for the night in Albuquerque, New Mexico? And I got a yes. I figured, all right, he's a traveling salesman. He's going to stay at a motel. So I started going through the list of motels in Albuquerque. Is he at Days Inn or Motel 6, whichever it was? And there were two motels with the same name, and I don't remember if it was Days Inn or Motel 6 or what, but there was one on Interstate 25 and one on Interstate 40. And I got that he was going to be staying at the one on Interstate 25. So I called the motel, and I had doused the guy's name, and I put on my best good old boy voice and asked, is Billy Bob Smith going to be there this afternoon? He's probably due a late check-in, ma'am. She said, yes, Billy Bob Smith would be checking in late. I contacted the police. The police went to the motel on I-40, not I-25. They didn't find the girl and never went to I-25 hotel.
Was that? I mean, why was that? I mean, what they made a
I have
mistake?
no idea. They went to the wrong motel, and all they had to do was drive a couple of miles. They could have gone to the other motel and found the girl. She eventually ended up in Tucson and was okay. But that was extremely frustrating. And I had basically handed over the location where they could have picked her up, and they just for whatever reason checked one motel and quit.
That's incredible. That's an incredible story. Wow.
Well, you get most police, if you talk to them, off the record, will agree with you that there is something to the psychic work. Publicly, they'll probably say no.
Yeah, I've seen cops that have years of career in law enforcement, and on the side, yeah, they're doing the psychic work, trying to find people. Yep, I see that.
Yeah, I did a presentation to a Rotary Club group, and one of them was a policeman. He walked up and he thanked me. He said he enjoyed the presentation, but he didn't believe in psychic abilities. And I said, well, do you believe in cop instinct? He said, well, yeah, of course. That's your psychic ability kicking in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's used so much more than we understand, isn't it? Sometimes when that ability does kick in, and we do listen to the gut feeling as well. And of course, I mean, with your ability, you've just fine-tuned it a lot more over the years. Do you know what I mean?
I'm working on it. It's an ongoing process.
You're doing pretty impressive. With the pendulum as well. Now, obviously, you can do the dowsing. And how successful have you been with that?
Very successful. I'll give an example in the spirit world. We were looking for, had a friend, this is in Louisiana. We had a friend who had, as a little girl, as a 2-year-old girl, had a, quote, friend who would come visit her. So we figured that's a spirit. And we were trying to find out who is this spirit. So we met a spirit who said, if you go to the old cemetery, there will be a clue there. So we went to the old cemetery in town. It dates back to the early 1800s. And I started dowsing. All right, there is a clue here. I got a yes. And using a technique I called direction, I said, which direction do we go? North, south, east, or west? Got a north. Do we go 100 paces or more? Got to know. 50 paces more? Got a yes. Narrow down the number of paces just by asking questions. So we, go north 25 paces. Went to that. Which direction do I go now? Go west. How many paces? Figured that out. We did that for about half an hour, zigzagging our way through the old cemetery till we came to an old family plot. And it was dated, the burials were dated like 1887, that era. And through that research and several visits over several months, we determined that the man who was buried there was the spirit visiting the little girl. And the reason he was married, his wife was buried next to him. The reason he was visiting the little girl was she's the reincarnation of his wife.
You don't normally think of it like that, do you?
No, we did not. That was kind of a mind-blowing moment for us. But the wife had chosen to reincarnate. The husband had decided not to reincarnate, but he still wanted to visit her. So he comes and visits her as she goes through life. That threw me for a loop, but it was.
Isn't that incredible? That because I know obviously you've dealt with quite a few ghost stuff, stories and research, and to look at it from that perspective of why that could be happening, not just forget about the idea of location or hauntings, but just looking at it from that perspective, that there's a karmic past life connection with them. Yeah, that is
exactly And I asked him, "Are you her guardian angel?" He said, "No." He just he wants to see how she's doing. He's a concerned relative. Fascinating.
I wonder how many paranormal sort of scenarios, you could put that idea too. Do you know what I mean?
We were investigating that. My friend George Sewell over in Louisiana and I are doing a lot of research now in that area. And one of the things we were researching heavily is reincarnation. Uh, I was kind of iffy about that whole concept for a long time, but now I believe that there is something to it. What we've discovered is, at least this is what they tell us, reincarnation it's a definite fact. It happens, but it's not mandatory and it's not automatic. It's a matter of choice.
Yes, we get to choose it by the sound of it.
Yeah,
Then,
in other
yeah.
words, yeah, you can come back if you can learn a lesson from it, or if you just want to come back and relive a happy time. But it's not automatic and it's not mandatory.
Would you want to come back?
Uh, I want to go further out now. I've done a lot here. I would like to go out yonder way, see what else is out there.
You never know. Maybe the further you go back, the further you go out there, the more you come back. Who knows
It
how it
could be.
works? You know.
I'd like to find out. One of the things I'm really learning is that really surprised me is once you cross over, there are a lot of options for the spirit to take over there. A lot of ways you can go.
Yeah, it's more complex is one silly word for it, but it's just ununderstandable just what this really is, and maybe it's supposed to be. Maybe this not knowing allows us just to get on, in with what we're doing. Because if it was meant to be known, obviously we would know, wouldn't we?
Well, I'm finding out, doing what I can.
Oh yeah, and you're putting some great work out there, like many other people like yourself, and what you're doing as well is fantastic. Do you think with your sort of research into this, it's made you a better person in a sense?
Yeah, I would think so, just because of not because of anything particularly mystical, just because of dealing with the people that I deal with and getting a perspective, from the other side, from a lot of good people. Yeah, definitely.
What's your next big project? Is there one coming up or?
Yeah, I'm going to finish this book. Again, the next book is going to be for working title right now is "What These Spirits Say About dot dot dot," and it's going to be all well. The research we did into the Pendulum book. Excuse me, plug. The research I did into this book was so overwhelming. I said, "There's another book here." So I'm taking the research there and doing a book, and it's basically what the spirits are telling me about the process of crossing over, the white light experience, what happens when you get on the other side, and what some of the options are. So that would be the next book. And my friend George and I are already planning next year. We're going to do some pendulum dowsing and explore the UFO phenomenon.
Oh, that will be interesting. Yeah,
That will be really
crossing
interesting.
that over. Yeah, very fascinating. And thank you for sharing that. And is there a particular sort of time in the day that you do your pendulum work? I mean, is there a sort of witching hour, as you call it in the book?
No, I would say my advice to anybody who wants to do pendulum dowsing: find the time that works right for you. Whatever time works best is the best. Normally, for me, mid morning works best for me. After I've slugged down a couple cups of coffee and it's semi-conscious, But whatever time works for you is what's best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you say to some of the skeptics out there, that are a bit dubious about whether anything good can come from this type of connection?
Yeah, they love me. I look them in the eye and I just go, I don't care. I don't care. I'm not a missionary. In other words, through my experience, direct experience, direct contact, I know this stuff works. I know how it works. I know what it can do. And I'm laying it all out there. You can find out for yourself if you want to. If you choose not to believe, that's fine. But again, I'm not a missionary.
What do you think about the idea of using the pendulum to look at future sort of questions and answers? Can that be done, do you think?
Personally, I don't have a lot of faith in that. I've dabbled in it. But to me, as soon as you ask a question about the future and take a breath, you've already altered the future, in some way. In some of my missing person cases, I have used the phrase, "Is it likely that?" Instead of will the little girl be in Albuquerque? Is it likely that she will be in Albuquerque? And I've had better success phrasing it that way. But I don't do a lot of future dowsing.
No, so it's the way you ask it. Because obviously some people use the dowsing for, love questions. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
yeah, yeah.
You can douse engine trouble in your car, or whatever you have questions about, you can use the pendulum to dowse it.
Right, right. Is there things that you wouldn't ask the pendulum for, do you think? But you've kind of said that, like you wouldn't want to know, it's not going to answer what sort of, give me the lottery numbers, do you know what I mean? Or whatever, that may not be in your highest interest.
Yeah, just personally, I don't, as a decent human being, I don't invade somebody else's privacy.
Yes,
yes.
Basic
rules of courtesy, and decency, that's what I apply.
Yeah. Yeah. So on this next book coming out, obviously, like you say, there was a lot of stuff that was left out of this particular book, but you have used the pendulum to connect to the spirit side.
Right.
Yes, in direct questions. And what started that journey off for you? I mean, was that just a natural curiosity to just ask those questions?
Yeah. Again, it's a story of my life. I sort of fell into it. I was doing some missing person work with some friends of mine in southern Arizona, and they are also historians, and they are very, very knowledgeable about ghost towns and ghost mines and ghost ranches down there. And they invited me to come down and just hike the desert with them. And we were sitting around going, we're mediums, and you're a dowser. What would happen if the three of us combined our skills? And so we gave it a try, and sure enough, we were the three of us were very, very fortunate in making a lot of connections, and that's what got me started.
Yeah, because I think whatever gifts we have, right, and if we're making those gifts public, yes, we give those gifts a lot of times to other people to answer their sort of questions that are important to them. But there's also the ability to tap into something to ask much greater questions to the other side, and that gets missed out so much.
Yeah, and you can use the pendulum dowsing to, where did I lose my car keys? Or, you can also, what is the nature of life? Is there life after death? What is the nature of the mysteries of the universe? It just depends on what your interest is. Just turns out that my interests are in what I call big picture things.
Big picture things, yeah. Well, do you think, or do you feel that for the next book, and what you have done as well, do you think the deeper that you go with those questions, or the deeper you, the more down the rabbit hole you go in one sense, but the more it comes back to present moment is just as important? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the things I can say truthfully, the more I learn, the more I learn that I need to learn more. Like my friend said, I started out with 5 questions. Now I'm up to about 500. But yeah, down the rabbit hole is definitely an appropriate statement, but it's a fascinating journey.
Of course. And I should have asked this at the beginning, but were there any sort of like books out there that really influenced you on your journey?
I'm pretty much self-taught. And then that's not that there's anything against book learning. That's my nature, is self-taught. So I met some people who knew how to do pendulum dowsing. They got me started on the basics, and then I just kind of developed it on my own.
Would you want people to send you in questions for the next book, or are these all going to be your own sort of questions on your own journey that you're going to be asking?
No, if someone has a question, I would be glad to evaluate it, and if it's good enough, ask it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And how can people get in contact? What your website is?
Yeah, I have 2 websites. One is www.fournightspress.com. That's FOURKNIGHT press.com. Named after King Arthur, by the way. You might appreciate that. And the other is www.danbaldwin.com. And also I have They call me directly on the email with baldco@msn.com. That's BALDCO@msn.com.
Well, that websites, those websites, shall I say, have been coming up on the screen throughout this interview. They're also your book has as well, and your links are below in the description.
Oh, great.
Yeah, do you or are you doing any more sort of ghostwriting?
Oh, yeah, that's a nice source of income for me.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. So you're still doing that. Yeah. Okay.
well, yeah, I mean that allows me to invest in traveling around the country doing the ghost researching. Ghostwriting helps the ghost researching.
Yeah. Well, I just feel for you that this book you're about to start doing, that there's quite a bit to this book. Yeah, yeah. I fascinating.
Is going to be holding it down to one volume.
That's what, right? Yeah. How are you going to do that, man? That's going to be tricky.
Well, yeah, one question leads to a dozen more.
Well, yeah, I mean, just even with the UFO, I'm just thinking one of the famous cases was the Roswell case. You know, did it happen? What does the pendulum say? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we're trying to make sure that we don't want to do just another UFO book or just another Roswell book. So we're trying to use the pendulum dowsing techniques to come up with slightly different viewpoints that people will bring a fresh look to maybe some old cases and some new cases.
And some new cases, yeah. Fascinating, fascinating. Well, Dan, I know there's a ton of questions that we didn't probably get to ask you, and just with the missing persons cases, do you make that public at all? Have you ever sort of made public some of the cases that you've dealt with? Is that in one of your books or?
Well, since you've asked,
yeah, because wasn't there a detective book?
I have two books. One is, let's see if you can see this. They are not yet lost. It's actual missing person cases. It's the actual cases, and I've worked about half of those in this book. And there is, for those who are interested in developing their psychic detective ability, I wrote the Psychic Detective Guidebook, and that's got my complete pendulum guidebook in that book. It also shows you how to use the skills.
Wonderful. So they're available on.
Thanks for the plug.
They're available on Amazon.
Wherever you buy your books, you can buy my books. Amazon, they're in ebook, they're in paperback, they're everywhere.
Wonderful. Okay, well, we're going to link those in as well. Thank you for sharing. I know this was more about the pendulum, but I knew there was a site here that had done. So there must be some books out there for that. But that's great. Great. Well, Dan, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah, and really looking forward to your next book as well. It's interesting
I'll
where you're
let you
going.
know.
Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to say thank you one more time, and I'll get you to say thank you. Okay, so Dan, just thank you for joining us.
No, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.